The mop moved across the floor in steady, even strokes, back and forth, left to right. Deho had cleaned this hallway 1,000 times before, maybe more. He had stopped counting after the first year. The Galactic Military Academy never truly slept. Even at 3 in the morning, lights hummed in distant rooms. Somewhere above, cadets studied for exams. Somewhere below, maintenance crews worked on the station's life support systems. But here, in the third-floor training wing, everything was quiet. Deho preferred the quiet. He was a small man by human standards. Average height, lean build, nothing remarkable. His black hair was cut short and simple. His face was the kind people forgot 5 minutes after seeing it. He wore the gray uniform of station maintenance staff with his name, patch sewn onto the chest. After 3 years of working the night shift, most people at the academy didn't even notice him anymore. That was fine with Deho. Better than fine, actually. He pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway, its wheels squeaking softly. Through the windows on his left, he could see the training hall. The lights were still on. Someone was inside. Deho paused and looked through the glass. A young woman stood in the center of the combat simulator. She wore the dark blue uniform of a human cadet, her black hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Hiram. Deho knew her name because she was one of only 5 humans at the entire academy. In a station of 3,000 cadets, 5 humans weren't hard to remember. She was running a combat simulation. Holographic enemies appeared around her, alien warriors from a dozen different species. She fought well, Deho thought. Her form was good. Her movements were quick. But she was tiring. A holographic Kalthari warrior, tall and reptilian, struck her with a simulated weapon. The training armor she wore flashed red. Impact detected. In a real fight, she would be injured, maybe dead. Hiram stumbled but got back up. She reset the simulation and started again. Deho watched for another moment, then continued down the hallway. It wasn't his business. He was just the janitor. He cleaned 3 more hallways before his shift break. The station cafeteria was open all night for the overnight workers. Deho made himself a cup of tea and sat in the corner, away from the other maintenance staff. They talked and laughed together. Deho listened but didn't join in. After 3 years, they had stopped trying to include him. At 4 in the morning, he went back to work. The training hall was finally dark. Hiram must have given up for the night. Deho unlocked the door and went inside to clean. The floor was scuffed from hours of practice. He started mopping, the same steady rhythm as always. Near the benches, he found an empty water bottle. He picked it up and threw it away. Then he paused. From his cart, Deho took out an energy drink and a protein bar. They were from his own lunchbox. He set them on the bench where Hiram usually sat. He didn't leave a note. He didn't write his name. He just left them there and continued cleaning. The rest of his shift passed like it always did. Clean, mop, empty trash, fix small problems. At 7 in the morning, the day shift janitors arrived. Deho nodded to them and headed back to his small quarters in the station's residential section. He slept through the day while the academy came alive around him. The next night started the same way. Deho reported for his shift at 10 in the evening. His supervisor, a tired-looking woman from Earth, handed him his assignment list. Deho took it without comment and started his rounds. He was cleaning the second-floor common area when he heard the voices. "Look, it's the ghost." Deho didn't look up. He continued wiping down tables. "Hey, I'm talking to you, human." 3 cadets walked into the common area. Deho recognized the one in front. Thalnix, a Vrexian from one of their noble families. Vrexians were tall, with blue-gray skin and sharp features. They considered themselves the finest warriors in the galaxy. Thalnix and his 2 friends were laughing about something. "You're blocking our way," Thalnix said. "Move." Deho was standing near the wall, nowhere close to blocking anything, but he picked up his cleaning supplies and stepped aside. "Sorry," he said quietly. "Sorry?" Thalnix mimicked his voice. "Is that all you humans know how to say? Sorry, excuse me, please don't hurt me." His friends laughed. Deho said nothing. He had learned that saying nothing was usually the best choice, but Thalnix wasn't done. He walked over and knocked the cleaning spray out of Daeho's hand. It clattered on the floor. "Oops," Thalnix said. "Better clean that up, janitor." Daeho bent down to pick it up. That's when Thalnix shoved him. It wasn't a hard shove, just enough to make Daeho stumble against the wall, just enough to feel powerful. Thalnix and his friends laughed harder. "Pathetic," Thalnix said. "Humans are so weak." Daeho's cleaning uniform had caught on something when he hit the wall. He heard a small tearing sound. The collar of his shirt had ripped slightly. Thalnix noticed it. His eyes focused on Daeho's neck. "What's that? Does the janitor have a tattoo?" He leaned closer. "Oh, look at this. The weak little human thinks he's tough with his decorations." Daeho quickly pulled his collar closed. "It's nothing," he said. "Let me see it better." Thalnix grabbed Daeho's collar and yanked it down. For just a moment, the edge of Daeho's tattoo was visible. Black lines, intricate and complex, starting at the base of his skull and disappearing down his back. They seemed to shimmer slightly in the light. Thalnix pulled out his communication device and took a picture. "This is perfect. Wait until everyone sees the decorated janitor." Then he let go and walked away, still laughing with his friends. Daeho stood there for a moment. His hands were steady. His breathing was calm. He pulled his collar back into place and picked up his cleaning supplies. Then he went back to work. But 2 floors above, in the cadet quarters, HFY was scrolling through the station's social network. Cadets posted everything there. Gossip, jokes, complaints about homework. Then she saw Thalnix's post. A picture of Daeho, the human janitor with his collar torn. A glimpse of a tattoo on his neck. The caption read, "Even human janitors try to look tough. Pathetic." Other cadets had already commented, laughing at the image, but HFY wasn't laughing. She stared at the tattoo pattern visible in the photo. Her hands started shaking. She had seen that pattern before. Once. In a classified military history file she had accessed during research for a paper. The file had been heavily restricted, almost completely redacted. But there had been one image, one symbol, the Reaper's mark. HFY zoomed in on the photo, her heart pounding. She couldn't see the full tattoo, just the edge. But the pattern was unmistakable, the way the lines curved, the way they interlocked. The slight shimmer that came from neural ink, not regular ink. Only one group in human military history had received neural ink tattoos. The Reaper program. HFY sat back on her bed, trying to process what she was seeing. The Reaper program was a ghost story. A legend. Something instructors whispered about when they wanted to scare cadets. Solo operators sent on impossible missions. Survival rates below 1%. Officially, the program had never existed. But HFY had found references, fragments, pieces of deleted files. And now the quiet human janitor who worked the night shift, who left energy drinks for tired cadets, who never spoke unless spoken to, had a Reaper's mark on his neck. She looked at the photo again. The tattoo was complex. Very complex. Each line meant something. Each curve represented a mission. The more intricate the pattern, the more missions survived. Daeho's tattoo, from what little she could see, was extremely intricate. HFY closed her communication device. Her hands were still shaking. Who was Daeho, and what had he done to earn that mark? HFY couldn't sleep that night. She lay in her bunk staring at the ceiling, thinking about the tattoo, about Daeho, about what it might mean. At 6 in the morning, she gave up on sleep. She got dressed in her cadet uniform and headed to the academy library. The main library was open to all students, filled with standard texts and historical records. But HFY wasn't going to the main library. She took an elevator down 3 levels to the restricted archives. As a cadet, she had limited access, enough to research papers and projects, not enough to see truly classified material, but maybe enough to find something. The archives were empty this early. HFY sat at a terminal and started searching. She typed in Reaper program and got nothing. The search returned 0 results. She tried Special Operations Human Classified and got a few files. All of them were heavily redacted. Black bars covered most of the text. She tried Neural Ink Tattoos Military and found something. One file. Dated 20 years ago. Most of it was blacked out, but a few lines remained. Identification purposes. Permanent record. Each operator receives unique pattern. Complexity indicates. The rest was redacted. Hiram saved the file and kept searching. She spent 2 hours going through fragments, pieces, hints of something that officially didn't exist. The more she found, the more disturbed she became. The Reaper program had been created during the Contact Wars, when humanity first encountered hostile alien species. Humans were new to the galaxy, considered weak and primitive. Several aggressive species had tried to conquer human colonies. Standard military forces hadn't been enough, so humanity had created something else. Solo operators. Enhanced training. Impossible missions. Sent alone into enemy territory with no support and no extraction plans. Their job was simple: survive and complete the objective. How they did it didn't matter. Success rate 0.001%. Most operators died on their first mission. Those who survived the first mission rarely survived the second. Those who survived multiple missions, Hiram found a fragment of a psychological report. Most of it was blacked out, but one line remained. Operators who survive extended deployment show severe psychological trauma. Recommend immediate retirement and intensive therapy. Combat effectiveness remains high, but mental stability questionable. She sat back from the terminal. Her stomach felt tight. That quiet janitor who mopped floors and emptied trash had survived multiple Reaper missions. Enough missions to have an extremely complex tattoo. What had he done? What had he seen? And why was he working as a janitor? Hiram heard footsteps. She quickly closed the files and looked up. Another cadet walked past, not paying attention to her. She waited until they were gone, then logged out of the terminal. She needed to talk to Daeho. But first she had classes. The day dragged on. Hiram sat through lectures on military tactics, alien biology, and weapons systems. She barely heard any of it. Her mind kept going back to the tattoo, to the fragments she had read, to Daeho's face when Thalnix had torn his collar. He had looked calm, completely calm. A normal person would have been angry, or afraid, or at least annoyed. Daeho had just pulled his collar closed and gone back to work. That evening, Hiram skipped dinner. She went to the training hall instead, arriving just before 10. She ran her combat simulation, but her heart wasn't in it. She kept watching the windows, waiting. At 10:30, Daeho appeared in the hallway outside. She could see him through the glass pushing his cleaning cart. He moved with the same quiet efficiency as always. Hiram turned off the simulation and walked out of the training hall. "Excuse me," she said. Daeho looked up. His expression didn't change. "Yes, you're Daeho, right? The night janitor?" Yes, Hiram hesitated. Now that she was standing in front of him, she didn't know what to say. She couldn't just ask, "Are you a Reaper?" That would be insane. "I wanted to thank you," she said finally, "for the energy drink and the protein bar. A few days ago, something changed in Daeho's eyes. Just a flicker. "I don't know what you mean. You left them on the bench. In the training hall. When I was practicing late. Maybe someone else left them. No one else knew I was there." Daeho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You train hard. You need to eat properly. That's all." "Thank you," Hiram said. It helped. Daeho nodded once and started to turn back to his cart. "Can I ask you something?" Hiram said quickly. He stopped. "What?" "Why did you become a janitor here?" "At the academy?" Daeho looked at her. Really looked at her. His eyes were dark and calm. "I wanted somewhere quiet," he said. "Somewhere I could be useful without hurting anyone." The way he said it made Hiram's chest tight. Without hurting anyone, as if hurting people was what he did before. "Are you?" She started, then stopped. She couldn't ask. Not directly, Daeho seemed to understand anyway. "I'm just a janitor," he said quietly. "That's all." Then he went back to his work. Hiram watched him for a moment. She noticed things she hadn't before. The way he moved, absolutely silent despite the cart and equipment. The way he positioned himself, always aware of exits and doorways. The way his hands moved, controlled and precise. Those weren't the hands of someone who had only cleaned floors. Those were the hands of someone who had held weapons. She went back to her quarters, her mind racing. Over the next week, Hiram paid attention. She noticed things happening around the academy. Supplies appeared in human cadet quarters, extra training materials, better equipment. No one knew where they came from. When human cadets submitted maintenance requests, they were completed immediately. Other cadets waited days for repairs. Human cadets waited hours. A group of Vrexian cadets who had been harassing humans found their training equipment malfunctioning. Not broken, just unreliable simulations that didn't load correctly, weapons that misfired in practice, nothing that could be traced to sabotage. Just a series of unfortunate accidents, and through it all, Daeho continued his quiet work. Mopping floors, emptying trash, moving through the academy like a ghost. But now Hiram saw him differently. She saw the way other cadets dismissed him, walked past him without a glance. She saw the way instructors ignored him completely. Daeho was invisible, and he had made himself that way on purpose. But the harassment of human cadets was getting worse. Thalnix and his friends had become bolder after the incident with Daeho. They saw it as proof that humans were weak. Even their janitors could be pushed around without consequence. In the cafeteria, Vrexian cadets accidentally knocked food trays out of human hands. In training, they hit harder than necessary during sparring. In classes, instructors openly favored alien species over humans. Hiram tried to report it. She went to the cadet coordinator, a stern Kalthari woman named Instructor Vren. The instructor had listened to her complaint with cold eyes. Cadet Hiram, Vren had said, if human cadets cannot handle the physical demands of training, perhaps they should reconsider their career choice. The galaxy is not a gentle place, but they're breaking conduct rules, Hiram protested. The harassment is— I see no harassment, Vren interrupted. I see stronger cadets teaching weaker ones about reality. That is part of your education here. Hiram had left the office shaking with anger. That night she went to the training hall again. She ran simulation after simulation, pushing herself until her muscles screamed. She lost every single match. When she finally stopped, exhausted and frustrated, she found Daeho cleaning near the benches. You're trying too hard, he said quietly. Hiram looked up, surprised. Daeho never started conversations. What? She said in the simulations. You're trying to match their strength. You can't. He continued, wiping down equipment. Rexians are stronger. Kalthari are faster. You can't beat them at their own advantages. Then how am I supposed to win? Daeho paused. For a long moment he didn't say anything. Then, you use what they don't expect. Humans are adaptable, creative. We learn fast and we improvise. Stop trying to be a Rexian warrior. Be a human fighter. How? Hiram asked. But Daeho had already moved on to the next section, his mop moving in steady strokes. Hiram watched him work. She thought about the tattoo, about the fragments she had read, about missions completed alone in enemy territory. Daeho knew how to win against stronger opponents. He had done it many times. He had survived when survival should have been impossible. Will you teach me? Hiram asked suddenly. Daeho stopped mopping. He didn't turn around. I'm just a janitor. No, you're not. Silence. I saw the tattoo, Hiram said. I know what it means. Or at least I know what it might mean. I researched it. Daeho turned slowly. His face was unreadable. You shouldn't have done that. I need help, Hiram said. All the human cadets need help. We're failing here. Not because we're not trying, but because the system is designed to make us fail, and no one cares. Her voice cracked slightly. You're the only person at this entire academy who has tried to help us, even in small ways. So I'm asking, please teach me. No, Daeho said. I can't. Why not? Because I'm trying to forget what I was. His voice was quiet but firm. I came here to be normal, to be useful in simple ways. I don't want to be that person anymore. Hiram felt tears of frustration in her eyes. Then we'll keep failing. Keep getting hurt. Keep being treated like we don't belong here. Daeho looked at her for a long moment. Something painful crossed his. 2 weeks passed. The situation at the academy grew worse. A human cadet named Bora ended up in the medical bay with a broken arm. She claimed it happened during training, but everyone knew the truth. A Vrexian cadet had hit her too hard during sparring on purpose. When she reported it, Instructor Vren said it was an accident and dismissed the complaint. Another human cadet, Minho, found his belongings thrown into the garbage. His class notes, his personal items, everything. Security footage from that hallway was mysteriously corrupted. The 5 human cadets began staying together for safety. They ate together, studied together, trained together. But they couldn't be together all the time. Hiram still went to the training hall at night. It was the only time she felt like she could practice without judgment. Daeho still cleaned while she trained, but he no longer spoke to her. He had gone back to being invisible. She had pushed too hard, Hiram realized. She had tried to pull him out of the quiet life he wanted. Now he was retreating even further into himself. On a cold Thursday night, Station Artemis 7's environmental controls made the training section slightly chilly. Hiram finished her simulation and decided to head back early. It was only 11:30, but she was tired. As she walked through the corridors toward the residential section, she heard voices. Multiple voices coming from one of the isolated training rooms. She slowed down. Something didn't feel right. "Please, we don't want trouble," a voice said. It sounded like Jiwoo, one of the human cadets. "Too late," another voice replied. "Thalnix, you humans need to learn your place." Hiram's blood went cold. She ran toward the voices. The isolated training room was designed for small group practice. It was located in a corner section of the academy, away from the main hallways. The security camera outside had a piece of tape over it. Through the small window in the door, Hiram could see inside. All 5 human cadets were there. No, wait, only 4. Bora was still in the medical bay. So Jiwoo, Minho, Subin, and Jaehyun were inside. Facing them were 5 Rexian cadets, Thalnix and 4 of his friends. They had backed the humans into a corner. Hiram yanked the door open and ran inside. "What's going on here?" Thalnix turned and smiled. "Ah, the 5th human, perfect, now you're all here." "Leave them alone," Hiram said, "or what?" "You'll report us?" Thalnix laughed. "The security system in this section is down for maintenance. No cameras, no witnesses. Just us teaching you a lesson about respecting your betters." Jiwoo was holding his side like he was already hurt. Subin's nose was bleeding. "We can't beat them," Jiwoo whispered to Hiram. "There's too many." "We have to try," Hiram whispered back. The Vrexians moved forward. The humans formed a defensive group, but it was hopeless. Vrexians were taller, stronger, faster. In a straight fight 5 against 5, the humans had no chance. The fight lasted less than a minute. Hiram managed to land 2 hits before a Vrexian cadet grabbed her arm and twisted. She cried out in pain. Jiwoo tried to help her but got kicked in the stomach. Minho went down hard. Subin and Jaehyun tried to fight but were quickly overwhelmed. The Vrexians weren't trying to seriously injure them. Not enough to require a medical report. Just enough to hurt, to humiliate, to teach them their place. Thalnix stood over Hiram, who had fallen to the floor. "You humans are so weak," he said. "You don't belong at this academy. You don't belong in the galaxy. You should crawl back to your little planet and stay there." "We won't," Hiram gasped. Thalnix raised his hand to hit her again. The door opened. Everyone froze. Daeho stood in the doorway. He was wearing his cleaning uniform, holding a mop. His cart was behind him in the hallway. He looked at the scene with calm, dark eyes. "Oh, look," Thalnix said, lowering his hand. "It's the janitor." "Come to clean up, have you?" Daeho stepped into the room. He set his mop carefully against the wall. "I need to clean this room," he said quietly. "You should all leave," Thalnix laughed. "We're not done here yet." "You can wait?" "No," Daeho said. "You need to leave now." Something in his voice made Thalnix's smile fade slightly. But he recovered quickly. "Are you giving me orders, janitor?" "I'm asking you to leave the cadets alone." "And if we don't?" Daeho didn't answer. He just stood there calm and still. Thalnix walked toward him. "You know what your problem is, human. You forget your place, just like these cadets. Someone needs to remind you." He reached out to shove Daeho just like he had done weeks ago. What happened next was almost too fast to see. Daeho moved. His hand came up and caught Thalnix's wrist. He twisted, stepped forward, and suddenly Thalnix was on the ground, face down. The entire movement took less than 2 seconds. Thalnix cried out in pain. "Get him!" he shouted to his friends. The 4 Vrexian cadets rushed at Daeho. Hiram had trained in combat for 2 years. She had studied fighting techniques from a dozen species. She thought she understood what combat looked like. She had never seen anything like this. Daeho didn't waste a single movement. A Vrexian cadet swung at him. Daeho slipped to the side, grabbed the cadet's arm, and used the momentum to throw him into the wall. Another cadet tried to grab him from behind. Daeho dropped low, swept the legs, and the cadet went down hard. The third and fourth cadets attacked together. Daeho caught one's punch, twisted the wrist until something popped, then used that cadet as a shield against the other. He struck pressure points with perfect precision. Joints were hyperextended but not broken. Nerves were hit to cause temporary paralysis. In less than 20 seconds, all 5 Rexian cadets were on the ground, not seriously injured but completely unable to fight. They groaned in pain, clutching arms and legs that wouldn't respond correctly. Daeho stood in the center of the room, breathing normally. He hadn't even broken a sweat. His collar had torn during the fight. The tattoo on his neck was fully visible now. It covered his entire neck and disappeared down his back and across his shoulders. Black lines swirled and intersected in impossibly complex patterns. They shimmered slightly with neural ink technology. The human cadet stared in shock. Daeho looked at them. "Are you all okay?" Hiram nodded slowly. We're fine. Good." Daeho went to each human cadet and checked them quickly. He examined Jiwoo's side with professional efficiency. Bruised ribs, not broken. Don't exercise for a few days. He looked at Subin's nose. Just bleeding, not broken. Tilt your head forward, not back. He moved through them like a medic, checking injuries with practiced skill. How did you? Minho started to ask. Don't. Daeho interrupted gently. Don't ask. On the floor, Thalnix groaned. You attacked us. You attacked cadets. You're done, janitor. You're finished. Daeho looked at him. You attacked students under my care. I defended them. That's all? No one will believe you. They will, Hiram said. She held up her communication device. I recorded everything, from the moment I entered the room. She hadn't, actually. But Thalnix didn't know that. Daeho turned to the human cadets. Listen to me carefully. Report this as self-defense. You fought back as a group. I arrived and helped. That's the truth. Understand? They all nodded. Stay together. Go directly to the medical bay and get checked out. File a formal report before Thalnix can make up a story. Go now. The 4 cadets helped each other up and left quickly. Hiram stayed. You too, Daeho said. You need to get your arm looked at. Hiram looked at the tattoo. Now she could see the full design. It was beautiful and terrible. Hundreds of lines, thousands of marks. Each one must represent something. A mission, a kill, a life saved or taken. How many missions? She whispered. Daeho's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. How many? Too many. He pulled his collar closed, trying to hide the tattoo. The fabric wouldn't stay. It was too badly torn. You need to go now before someone comes. Daeho, go! His voice was firm but not angry. Just tired. So very tired. Hiram left. Behind her, Daeho stood alone in the training room with 5 groaning Rexian cadets. He looked at his hands. They were steady. No shaking. No tremors. He had promised himself he wouldn't do this anymore. He had promised himself he would be normal, safe, peaceful. But when he had walked past that training room and heard the sounds of the fight, heard human cadets being hurt, something inside him had broken. Or maybe it had never been fixed in the first place. He pulled out his communication device and called station security. This is maintenance worker Daeho. There's been an incident in training room 7B. 5 cadets are injured. Please send medical. Then he sat down on a bench and waited. His quiet life at the academy was over. Within an hour, station security arrived. Then medical teams. Then Instructor Vren, her reptilian face twisted in anger. You attacked my cadets, she hissed at Daeho. They attacked human students. I defended them. You're just a janitor. You have no authority. I'm a station employee with a duty to protect students. You'll be expelled from this station, arrested, charged with assault. Daeho said nothing. He simply sat there calm and quiet while Vren raged at him. By morning, the entire academy knew what had happened. The story spread like fire. A human janitor had taken down 5 Rexian cadets. The decorated janitor from Thalnix's photo. The one with the mysterious tattoo. People started asking questions. Who was Daeho? What was that tattoo? How could a simple janitor move like that? In her quarters, Hiram stared at the photo she had saved. The academy changed overnight. Students who had walked past Daeho without a glance now stepped aside when they saw him coming. Some stared with fear, others with respect, a few with curiosity. but no one ignored him anymore. Daeho hated it. He returned to his quarters after the hearing and sat on his bed staring at the wall. The quiet room felt too quiet now. The peace he had built over 3 years had shattered in seconds. Everyone knew what he was, what he had been, what he could do. He couldn't be invisible anymore. His communication device buzzed constantly. Messages from cadets, questions from instructors, interview requests from military historians. He deleted them all without reading. That evening there was a knock on his door. Daeho opened it to find Hirim standing in the hallway. She looked nervous. "Can I come in?" she asked. Daeho hesitated, then stepped aside. Hirim entered and stood awkwardly near the door. The room was small and plain. A bed, a desk, a small bathroom. No decorations. No personal items. Nothing that made it feel like home. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" "For researching your past. For pushing you to teach me. For exposing what you wanted to keep hidden. All of it." She looked at the floor. "You came here for peace and I ruined it." Daeho sat on the edge of his bed. "You didn't ruin anything. I ruined it myself when I fought those cadets. You were protecting us, I know. But I could have found another way. A quieter way." He rubbed his face tiredly. "I spent 8 years being Phantom. Always alert. Always ready. Always dangerous. When I retired, I wanted to be normal, just normal. Wake up, do simple work, go to sleep. No violence, no death, no missions. Just a quiet life where I couldn't hurt anyone. You helped people here," Hirim said. "In small ways. Leaving energy drinks. Fixing things. Protecting us, that's different. That's..." Daeho struggled to find the words. "That's being useful without being dangerous. But you are dangerous. That's not bad. That's just true." Daeho looked at her. "You don't understand. When you've done what I've done, hurt people the way I've hurt them, even for good reasons, you can't just turn it off. Every time I see a cadet walk past, part of my brain is analyzing threats, calculating how to neutralize them if needed. I don't want to think like that anymore. I want to be someone who mops floors and empties trash and doesn't think about killing." Hirim sat down in the desk chair. "Can I tell you something?" Daeho nodded. "Before I came to this academy, I was nobody. Just another human from Earth, trying to find her place in the galaxy. I thought if I could graduate from here, I could prove that humans belong, that we're not weak." She smiled sadly. "But every day here I failed. Got knocked down. Got mocked, got hurt. I started believing maybe they were right. Maybe humans are too weak for this." She looked at Daeho. "Then I found out about you. A human who completed 43 impossible missions. Who ended wars. Who survived when survival should have been impossible. And I realized something. We're not weak. We're just different. We have to fight differently. Think differently. That's what you showed those Vrexian cadets. They were stronger and faster, but you won anyway." "I'm trained," Daeho said. "You can't compare." "I'm not comparing. I'm saying you gave me hope. You gave all the human cadets hope. For the first time, we believe we can succeed here." Daeho was quiet for a long moment. "I'm leaving," he finally said. "I'm going to request a transfer. Find another quiet place. Start over, please don't." "Why not?" "Because we need you here. You don't need me. You need a teacher. Someone who can train you properly. I'm just a..." "You're a janitor who survived 43 Reaper missions," Hirim interrupted. "You're the most qualified person on this station to teach humans how to fight. How to win. How to survive." There was another knock on the door. Daeho opened it to find a human man in military uniform standing outside. He was maybe 40, with a scar across his left cheek and the bearing of a soldier. "Operative Phantom," the man said, then smiled. "Sorry, Daeho, can I come in?" "Who are you?" "Instructor Taekyung." "I'm your replacement," Daeho blinked. "My what?" Taekyung walked in without waiting for permission. Instructor Vren was suspended. The academy needed a new combat instructor for advanced tactics. Human Fleet Command recommended me. I'm former Special Forces, retired 5 years ago. Not a Reaper, but I did my share of difficult missions. He looked around the small room. "This is where they put you? Terrible. You should have better quarters. I'm just a janitor." "Not anymore." Taekyung pulled out a datapad. "The Academy administration made an official offer. They want to hire you as a civilian combat consultant, not teaching full classes but providing guidance, showing cadets alternative fighting styles, helping humans adapt their training to better compete with alien species. I'm not a teacher. You don't have to be. Just show them what you know. Help them understand that being human isn't a weakness. Taekyung smiled. The pay is significantly better than janitorial wages. Better quarters too, and you'd be helping people. I don't want to teach violence, then teach control. Teach discipline. Teach them what you showed those Vrexian cadets. Precision. Restraint. The strength to choose mercy when you could choose harm. Taekyung put the datapad on the desk. Think about it. You have 24 hours to decide. After he left, HFY looked at Daeho. Will you accept? I don't know. What would make you decide? Daeho didn't answer. He walked to the window and looked out at the academy. Students moving between buildings. Instructors giving lectures. Life continuing. The next morning, Daeho went to the training hall. Not to clean, just to watch the human cadets were practicing. All 5 of them working together. HFY was running a simulation, and the others were giving advice. They were trying so hard, fighting with everything they had, and losing. The simulation ended. HFY punched the wall in frustration. We're doing everything right, but it's not enough. You're doing everything the way they taught you, Daeho said from the doorway. Everyone turned. HFY's eyes widened. Daeho? He walked into the training hall. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't pushing a cleaning cart. Show me the simulation again. HFY reset it. The holographic enemies appeared. She fought well using proper techniques. She lasted 30 seconds before being defeated. Again, Daeho said. She ran it 3 more times. Same result. You're fighting like a Vrexian warrior, Daeho said. Stop doing that. That's what they teach us. They teach you wrong. Not wrong for them. Wrong for you. He stepped into the simulation zone. Reset it, watch. The simulation started. Holographic enemies appeared, surrounding him. Daeho didn't fight like the instructors taught. He didn't stand his ground or meet force with force. He moved constantly, staying in motion. He used the enemies against each other, positioning himself so their attacks blocked each other. He struck pressure points not with full force but with precise efficiency. He turned their strength into a weakness. The simulation ended. All enemies neutralized. Time 15 seconds, the cadet stared. Humans can't match Vrexian strength, Daeho said quietly, or Kalthari speed, or any species' natural advantages, so don't try. Use what makes humans different. Adaptability, creativity, the ability to learn and improvise. Don't fight the way they expect. Fight the way they can't predict. Will you teach us? Ji-woo asked. Daeho looked at the 5 young faces. All of them were tired, bruised, frustrated, but hopeful. They wanted to learn. They wanted to prove themselves. He thought about Admiral Yunsu's words, about the hearing, about his past, about the choice he made to come here. I have one condition, he said finally. Anything, HFY said. I keep my janitor job. I'll consult in the mornings, teach you what I know. But evenings I clean. I need that. The quiet work. The simple tasks. I need to remember that small things matter too. Deal, all 5 cadets said together. Daeho smiled slightly. It was the first time anyone had seen him smile. He went to the academy administration and accepted the position. They gave him better quarters, but he took only the basics. A bed, a desk, space to think. Nothing fancy. He started his consulting work the next day. The first session was difficult. Teaching was strange for someone who had worked alone for 8 years. But the cadets were eager to learn. He showed them techniques. Not how to kill, but how to survive. How to defend. How to use an opponent's strength against them. How to think 3 moves ahead. Word spread. Soon, non-human cadets started watching the sessions. Some asked if they could join. Daeho allowed it. The techniques worked for any species. Months passed. The human cadets improved dramatically. HFY passed her combat qualifications with high marks. The other humans followed. They weren't winning through strength, but through strategy and adaptation. Other instructors noticed. They started incorporating some of Daeho's techniques into their classes. The harassment stopped. Not because people feared Daeho, but because the human cadets could defend themselves now. They belonged at the academy because they earned their place. Thalnix avoided the human cadets entirely. He had learned his lesson. 6 months after the hearing, Daeho finished his evening cleaning shift. It was 3 a.m. The academy was quiet again. He pushed his cart down the familiar hallways, mopping floors in steady, even strokes. A group of Kalthari cadets walked past, talking loudly. Did you see Instructor Phantom's demonstration today? The hearing was scheduled for 3 days later. Daeho spent those days confined to his quarters, not arrested but not free to leave. Station security posted a guard outside his door. Through the window, he could see the academy continuing without him. Students walking to classes, instructors giving lectures, life moving forward. He had known this day would come eventually. The quiet couldn't last forever. Nothing ever did. On the morning of the hearing, they came to escort him to the administrative chamber. Daeho wore a clean version of his janitor uniform. They hadn't given him anything else to wear. He walked through the academy hallways flanked by 2 security officers. Cadets stopped and stared. Word had spread. Everyone knew the story now. The janitor who fought like a soldier. The human with the mysterious tattoo. Whispers followed him everywhere. The administrative chamber was a large room designed for formal proceedings. A panel of 3 judges sat at a raised desk at the front. Admiral Tekron, a high-ranking Brexian officer, Professor Halix, an elderly scholar from the Kalthari species, and Director Chen, a human administrator who looked uncomfortable. In the audience section, Daeho could see cadets and instructors. Dalnik sat in the front row, his arm in a sling. Instructor Vren stood nearby, her reptilian face cold with anger. The 5 human cadets sat together in the back. They made Daeho stand in the center of the room alone. Admiral Tekron spoke first. His voice was deep and commanding. Daeho, human maintenance worker, you stand accused of assault against 5 cadets. How do you respond? Not guilty, Daeho said quietly. I acted in defense of students under attack. You are not authorized to discipline cadets, Professor Halix said. You are a janitor, not security personnel. I didn't discipline anyone. I stopped an assault in progress. By attacking 5 cadets, Admiral Tekron said. By defending 5 students who were being hurt. Instructor Vren stepped forward. Permission to speak? Granted, Admiral Tekron said. Vren approached the panel. This human janitor has no military training, no combat authorization, no right to touch our cadets, yet he attacked 5 of our finest students with unusual and dangerous skill. He should be immediately expelled from this station and charged with criminal assault. The cadets he attacked were committing assault themselves. Director Chen said quietly. Disciplinary action, Vren corrected. The human cadets needed to be taught respect. Cadet Thalnix and his group were providing necessary correction. By beating them, Director Chen's voice rose slightly. By showing them their place in the galactic order. Humans are weak. The sooner they accept this, the better. Daeho said nothing. He had learned long ago that arguing with people like Vren was pointless. Admiral Tekron raised a hand for silence. We will hear testimony. Cadet Thalnix, please approach. Thalnix stood and walked to the center, his movements stiff from his injuries. He described the incident, but his version was very different. In his story, the human cadets had attacked first. He and his friends were defending themselves. Then Daeho had appeared and brutally assaulted them with advanced combat techniques and possible enhanced abilities. He moved impossibly fast, Thalnix said. No normal person moves like that. He must have illegal augmentations, hidden weapons, something. A janitor couldn't possibly fight like he did. The implication was clear. Daeho must be cheating somehow, using illegal technology. Otherwise, how could a lowly human defeat 5 Rexian warriors? Next, the human cadets testified. Jiwoo, Minho, Subin, and Jaehyun all told the truth. They described weeks of harassment. The attack in the training room. Daeho arriving and defending them. But Admiral Tekron seemed skeptical. Why didn't you report this harassment earlier? We did, Jiwoo said. Multiple times. To Instructor Vren. She dismissed every complaint. All eyes turned to Vren. She looked unconcerned. I saw no evidence of harassment. Only natural selection. The weak being taught by the strong. Director Chen's face had gone red with anger. That is not Academy policy. Enough, Admiral Tekron interrupted. We will now hear from the accused. Daeho, explain your actions. Daeho stepped forward. I was cleaning the hallway near training room 7B. I heard sounds of a fight. I investigated and found 5 cadets attacking 4 students. I asked them to stop. They refused. I defended the students using minimum necessary force. No one was seriously injured. That's all. You call dislocated shoulders and hyperextended joints minimum force? Admiral Tekron asked. Yes, Deho said simply. If I had wanted to cause serious injury, I would have. The chamber went silent. The way he said it, so calm and matter-of-fact, sent a chill through the room. Professor Hallex leaned forward. Where did a janitor learn such combat skills? Deho didn't answer. I asked you a question, Hallex pressed. I heard you. Then answer. No. Admiral Tekron's face darkened. You will answer questions put to you by this panel. My past employment is classified. I can't discuss it. Classified? Friend laughed. You're a janitor. What could possibly be classified about? The chamber doors opened. Everyone turned. A woman in a human military uniform walked in. She was older, maybe 60, with gray hair cut short and sharp eyes. Her uniform displayed the rank insignia of an admiral, a human admiral. Behind her walked 2 armed guards. The entire chamber stood. Even the panel. Human admirals were rare. Humanity was still new to the galactic military structure. An admiral showing up at an academy hearing was unprecedented. The woman walked directly to the panel. She didn't salute. She didn't ask permission. She simply placed a data chip on their desk. I am Admiral Yunsu of Human Fleet Command, she said. Her voice was cold and precise. I'm here regarding the case against Deho. Admiral Tekron recovered first. This is an internal academy matter. No, it isn't. Admiral Yunsu tapped the data chip. That contains classified military documentation that supersedes academy jurisdiction. You will read it. Now. The 3 panel members looked at each other. Then Professor Hallex inserted the chip into a reader. His eyes scanned the information. His face went pale. He passed it to Admiral Tekron, whose expression shifted from anger to shock. Director Chen read it last, and her hands began to shake. This can't be real. Admiral Tekron said. It's real, Admiral Yunsu confirmed. Deho isn't just former military. His file is sealed under the highest level of classification. His full designation is Operative Phantom, Reaper Program, Human Special Operations Division. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Cadets whispered to each other. Instructors looked confused. Thalnik stood. What's the Reaper Program? Admiral Yunsu turned to face the audience. Since most species here seem unfamiliar with human military history, let me explain. 20 years ago, when humanity first encountered hostile alien species, we were considered weak, primitive, easy to conquer. Several species tried. They attacked our colonies, killed our civilians. Traditional military response wasn't enough, so we created something new. The Reaper Program. She began walking slowly across the room. Solo operatives, enhanced training, deployed alone into enemy territory with one mission: complete the objective by any means necessary. No support, no backup, no extraction. The operators were given targets and told to survive. She paused. The selection process had a 99% failure rate. Training killed most of the rest. The survival rate for actual missions was 0.001%. The chamber was completely silent now. Operative Phantom, Admiral Yunsu continued, looking at Deho. Completed 43 missions over 8 years. 43. When the average Reaper died on their first mission, he operated behind enemy lines in 3 separate wars. He dismantled enemy command structures, eliminated high-value targets, sabotaged military installations, gathered intelligence from impossible locations. She turned back to the panel. His actions personally ended 2 separate conflicts: the Vrexian incursion of 2043, the Kalthari border war of 2045. Both wars were ended not by fleets or armies, but by one man operating alone, doing what no one else could do. Admiral Tekron had gone very pale. The Vrexian incursion? His own species had been involved in that war. They had lost thousands of soldiers to what they thought were accidents and bad luck. Command structures had collapsed mysteriously. Supply lines had been destroyed by unknown causes, not unknown. Phantom Professor Hallex was staring at Deho with new eyes. The Kalthari border war had ended when their supreme military commander had died suddenly in his heavily guarded compound. Officially, it was an accident. No one had ever figured out how it really happened, until now. Admiral Yunsu walked over to Deho. Show them, she said quietly. Deho hesitated. Then he reached up and pulled down his collar. The entire tattoo was visible. Black neural ink lines covered his neck, disappeared down his back, spread across his shoulders, intricate patterns interlocking and spiraling. Dozens of major lines, hundreds of minor marks. Each line represents a completed mission, Admiral Yunsu explained. Each intersection represents a high-value target eliminated. Each spiral represents a year of active service. Phantom has more missions on his skin than any other surviving Reaper. She turned back to the panel. 3 years ago, Operative Phantom retired. He was suffering from severe post-traumatic stress, combat fatigue, psychological trauma from 8 years of operating alone in